Hey everyone, this is the Gen X Rewind podcast. My name is Evan.
And I'm Brady.
Hey Brady, nice to see you again. This is our second show, and as our second show, I thought we might just do quick introductions again. And for informational purposes, to remind our audience that you are officially a Gen Xer if you were born between the years of 1965 and 1980. And as we said last time, I'm at the beginning of that, and Brady's about two-thirds of the way through that. But we are both Gen Xers and have lots of similar experiences. I have been married for about 22, 23 years in that range and have a high school son who plays soccer, and we have three dogs. What about you, Brady?
I thought you were going to say I have a high school diploma.
Oh, well, I do have that, and I'm sure it's worth the paper that it's printed on as well. Actually, back in our day, high school diplomas actually probably were of value. I don't know that they hold a great deal of value anymore, but that's another
Yeah,
story.
yeah. Well, no, I'm also married 22 plus years and counting, and I've got teenage twin girls, and grew up in Michigan. Uh, Towards two-thirds of the way through this this Gen X um, time frame. So, yeah, we have a little bit of a kind of a nice spread through this
Right. S-
generation.
Slightly different,
Yeah,
right? Like most of my formative years were in the 70s and most of yours were in the 80s.
right.
But we both agree that the 80s are the greatest time period in the history of the world. And that's non-negotiable. Just a reminder to everybody, we are just going to talk, right? This is what we do. We just sit and talk. We have some things that we like to talk about, and we'll do some current events and some other segments, but it's mostly just us talking. And like we said last time, mostly PG, so you can listen in the car with your kids in the back. They might say, "Mom, what did he mean by that? What's that? I don't know what that means." And this is a learning show.
That's right.
This is
That's right.
your opportunity as a parent to teach your children about your childhood. Right? So we like to kick it off with some current events, and I would say, like, man, we have been inundated with football stuff this last week, and especially yesterday and today, right? Did you get to watch? You were out Christmas shopping or something, I think, right?
Already starting for us. So, I did watch the first half of the Arizona Cardinals game. And yeah, after the second interception, I thought,
Yeah, that was the end of that, right? Like, now you're a Detroit Lions fan. As your do you consider the Lions your primary team, even though you've lived in Arizona for 20 plus years?
I do. I do. That's my childhood team that I
Have lived and died with,
here.
mostly died.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the team that is in the DNA for me. And yeah, I mean, that was something too. I was going to ask you is, it seemed like the time frame that we grew up, sports as a kid was everything. It
Oh,
was,
it's huge.
and I wonder, was that just, a thing where we grew up, or we were just in it, or and kids nowadays aren't to that level, or
I,
still hold up?
yeah, I think I thought about that too because I don't know about your kids, but my son, he doesn't watch TV.
Hmm.
Like literally does not watch TV at all. The only time he ever watches TV is like 15 minutes of a game with me, and then he gets bored and he goes upstairs
Yeah.
and does something on the computer or homework or something. He just doesn't watch TV. So I think today's kids would rather just watch the highlights on Snapchat or Twitter or something than actually sit down and watch a 3 hour game, right? They just don't have the attention span to sit
Yeah.
there for 3 hours and watch the game, right? I barely do.
I,
It's like,
well, yeah,
so
hours, a chunk out of your day. And with the technology now, that's one of the benefits is, yeah, you can
right.
record it and power through, skip commercials, and get through.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And
Uh,
I got the NFL package last year and I got it again this year on YouTube TV. This is not a promo, by the way. It's ridiculously overpriced. But that being said, I get to watch all of the Detroit games and all the Minnesota Vikings games.
Yeah.
And that's my home team, and they played great today. It was the first game I feel like all year where they actually like played a great game. Like
Yeah.
start to finish, great game.
Yeah.
Everybody contributed. That's how they should be able to play. Now, yesterday, I got to say this because I got lots of texts yesterday from friends and high school buddies and everything else because, okay, I've lived in Arizona about 30 years and I've been an ASU fan most of those 30 years living here, right? So, in fact, I lived in Tempe about literally, if you remember this, right, about a block from ASU.
Yeah.
So I could walk to campus in like 2 minutes,
Right.
and did walk to a couple of ASU games with a friend who lives down there.
Yeah.
Um, but I went to Iowa State. That's where I graduated from college. And so Iowa State and ASU playing in the Big 12 championship yesterday was really taxing my loyalties, let me tell you. And I had kind of an argument with my wife and son. They were both rooting for ASU for the most part because they don't have that connection to Iowa State that I do. Um, and I had predicted that Cam Scatterbo would absolutely go off. Whether
Yeah.
ASU would win or not, I didn't know, but I knew Scatterbo would be good for 200 yards. Guess what? He was good for 200 yards because that dude is amazing, right? And if you haven't seen him before, and that was the first time you saw him, he's been doing that all year long,
Yeah.
right? This is the guy he is. He's an amazing talent, and no one has been able to stop him. It's a little bit like the guy from Boise State, the Genty guy. Nobody has been able to stop him, right? He's averaging nearly 200 yards rushing per game. He just can't be stopped. But looking at, so, I mean, I was happy that one of my teams won the Big 12, made it into the 12, found out today that ASU got a bye.
That's huge.
You got
Yeah.
to put this in perspective, right?
Yeah.
Predicted to finish 16th out of 16 teams in the Big 12,
Right.
coming off NCAA suspension and 2 3-9 seasons. No expectations. They go 11-2. First year in the Big 12, they win the Big 12. Uh, just an amazing, and get a bye and are in the football championship. It's just that's an incredible story. And Kenny Dillingham has got to win Coach of the Year. How could anybody surpass what he's done? The only person that I think could potentially challenge him is that coach from Indiana,
Yeah.
because they've never done anything and they're 11-1, and they're going to get a chance to prove themselves against Notre Dame. So
Yeah.
great
No,
job there too. And
that's
that's interesting, how they did that. You see that Indiana plays Notre Dame. Well, guess where Notre Dame is? It's in South Bend, Indiana. So it's like a little Indiana Super Bowl there. Um, Alabama being left off of the list makes me so happy. I can't even explain how happy I am that none of those other 3-loss SEC teams. And I was reading all day on X, people saying, how great Alabama is. And then everyone reminding them, perhaps you forgot you lost to 2 6-6 teams and you got blown out by the second one. I mean, you weren't even in that game.
yeah.
So maybe if you want to talk, don't lose to 6-6 teams next year, right?
Right. This year's was not good for
So
them.
where's Michigan? Are they in the final 12 there, Brady? I guess I missed that one.
Fell to yeah, in the
But
playoff.
they beat Ohio State, like we said last time. So who
Yeah,
cares, right?
that's huge. That's huge. I was going to ask you with the Lions game. I don't know if you had a chance to watch that, but when Dan Campbell is faced with 4th and inches, and you can kick a field goal with what would they have a minute left in the game?
Yeah, yeah.
Three, and you just were stuffed on the previous. When you tried to push it for fourth on
Right.
that, to me, that was a tough one. That I can't see any harder choice than to say, because I mean,
Yeah.
if stuffed again, and Green Bay has a minute to march down the field and get a field goal, which probably would have happened, then he looks like he lost the game.
These are And that came up in the ASU Iowa State game, not with that exact scenario, but they went for it on 4th and 1. ASU did, I think in their own territory, and then they went on a fourth
Yeah,
and six, and they got that as well.
yeah,
Uh, well, we both have a vested interest in the NFC Central, right? And what's happening there. And every week, as a Detroit fan, you're hoping to pull away from the Vikings. And thankfully, or sadly, in your case, the Vikings aren't allowing that to happen. But at least there's a little separation between us and the Packers.
right.
Now you've almost eliminated the Packers from winning the division.
Yeah.
4 games left, 3-game lead. Um, so it looks like it's going to come down to those last couple games. I know Vikings in Detroit is the last game of the season.
That could be a big one.
That could all come down to that, right? Not just for the division, but also like home field throughout. Um,
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
have a whole lot of confidence in the Eagles and them being able to win out. I don't know why, but
Yeah. I don't know about Minnesota. I know Detroit's schedule is they've got Buffalo next, which is not a gimme.
no, and Buffalo's probably going to be mad after losing to LA, which didn't make any sense,
Right.
right? I didn't see that coming. But then I was going to mention too, it's like, is it just me or the Chiefs on every primetime broadcast the entire season? I
Right.
swear every week they're on Sunday Night Football, Monday Night Football, Thursday Night Football. They had a special Friday game after Thanksgiving. The other two teams that seem to always, and they're always at home,
Yeah.
right? I'm pretty sure Kansas City's schedule is 17 home games because I don't know that I've ever seen them play a game anywhere else. Same with the Packers and same with Dallas. These
Yeah.
these teams never, they're always on prime time. They never are playing on the road in those primetime games, seemingly. It's
Right.
crazy. Somehow the NFL thinks that that's what everybody wants to watch.
Yeah. I think
Uh,
Detroit needs to find somebody to date Taylor Swift. I think that,
yeah, exactly. I think that's a great suggestion. Well, yeah, exactly. Because I don't know if you saw last night, but in the Monday night game, Dallas uh, is playing, and the kicker for the other team is dating a Dallas Cowboy cheerleader.
I
So
saw,
he got all sorts of press. They put her on screen like 10 times. I
right.
guess that's the scenario you need for your team is for one of your stars to be dating a model or a famous singer or something, right? Apparently that's the at least
Yeah.
here's my question, Brady, and you have teenage daughters, but do your daughters watch a lot of NFL games?
No, I can't say that they do. No, not without any type of coercion. Uh,
So who are they marketing to?
yeah,
Who's the NFL marketing to, right?
I don't know. And it was funny is they showed that cheerleader when her boyfriend kicked the whatever it was, a field goal or extra point, and I
Right,
was wondering what her expression was going to be because she's with Dallas. Is she
right.
going to pretty straight face because maybe she could get in trouble if she's happy. But she was like, I think she said, yes, thank you, God, that type of thing. You could see it. So, yeah,
She's
hopefully,
gonna get fired. She's gonna get fired from the
right?
Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders, right?
Yeah, we should probably keep that on the down low.
Yeah. So anyway, that's we've gone through some sports stuff. But we wanted to touch on a couple of other like pretty hot topics, right? So I don't you probably heard, unless you were living in a box today, that the Subway Strangler Daniel Penny was acquitted
Yeah,
today and found not guilty. Google the story, but he saved an entire subway train of people from a criminal. And but I did see a clip of the guy's dad, the victim, uh, out there saying today, preaching hate, all this BLM stuff, preaching hate, preaching that there should be retribution and that he misses his son. Oh, you mean that son that you abandoned when he was 8 years old, who turned into a drug addict and a criminal? That son? Is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah,
Unbelievable.
I for me, I was thinking along the line of where is that, where does our culture put the line as far as when you're on a plane or on a bus or riding the subway and somebody is threatening the group, your family, are we just supposed to sit there and stare straight?
Yeah, exactly. Right?
Is it, I mean, where is that line? Because at the same time, you don't want like that other video that came out with the couple that honked their horn and the lady gets out and she's waving a gun around and threatening. It's like we don't want the Wild West where everyone is just kind of enacting justice or that type of thing. But where is that line where now it's okay to, is it where you have to see a weapon? If they pull a knife out, okay, now everyone needs to, defend. And if it ends with that person in your life, where is that line? Because I think with all of this and them wanting a guilty verdict and then wanting whatever prison time and justice, it's like, well, as a society, as a culture, we got to know that uh,
Yeah.
where that line is.
Yeah.
Other no,
I don't know what the law is in New York, but in most states, most states are stand your ground. And also you can uh, respond to lethal force with lethal force against yourself or family member or some other human, right?
yeah,
So if somebody's got a gun to somebody's head, that's obviously a threat of lethal force. You have the right to use lethal force to stop it. If
right,
somebody's got a knife, that's lethal force, right? A knife is lethal force. If they're just punching somebody, then you can't shoot them, right? Because it's not lethal.
right,
But I'm sure you could tackle them, right? Or something like that. But it should be made clear, like in this scenario. Now, thankfully, this guy was acquitted, but in this scenario and other scenarios, it should be clearly spelled out, right? What is your not only your respect. I mean, remember the Seinfeld episode? They didn't help the guy who was being robbed in the Seinfeld finale, right?
you're right.
Hey, they'll be doing him a favor. He won't be able to pay for his next meal. It's like, and they got arrested for not helping somebody. And now we've come full circle. You get arrested when you help somebody, and not just arrested, you get prosecuted and thrown in jail. And it's, to me, that's just, it's crazy. That your point is a great one. Where are we as a society? What is the rule? Please
Yeah,
tell us what the rule is, so that we all know. I feel as if you would want citizens to intervene in situations,
yeah.
right?
And I've walked in San Francisco down the street and
Yeah.
a homeless person get in my face and threaten me and my wife. And I just I could tell the light was on, but nobody was home with
Yeah.
them. And so, it wasn't, I just kind of kept walking and, nothing came of it. But it's like part of me says you shouldn't have to kind of live in fear,
Yeah.
at the moment and just hope that they don't hurt you or your wife or your family. There should be something you can do and not have to fear. Okay, what's a jury gonna decide? What state am I in? What's going to happen here? Do I need to think about it? Do I need to let certain things happen before I respond? Um, and the other thing too, Evan, is here's a good message for all the defund the police people, because you have to think if there were police there, he probably would be alive. They probably would have been able to arrest him and
Yeah.
still be
Or
alive.
use stun guns or tasers or or
Yeah.
just, bodily grab him and hold him down or something. But yeah, this is what you get when you say, well, we don't want police.
Yeah.
You want anarchy, is what you're saying, then, right? It's like there are other countries that you should probably live in if that's what you want. This country is not a country of anarchy. We have rules and laws, and
Yeah.
we expect to be able to walk around and for the most part be safe, right? Unless we're completely doing something idiotic. But any calls by anybody to riot or to destroy stuff or whatever because a verdict was rendered that they didn't agree with, it's ridiculous. Like, that has to be stopped.
Yeah.
Anybody who was inciting violence, that's a crime, just FYI, right? To incite violence. So anybody who was inciting violence today, they committed a crime. Where are the police? Where's the FBI for all of that? Don't understand. Speaking of that, this CEO that was executed on a street. What city again was this? Did this happen in? It seems like both of these events happened in the same city, right? Who's in
Yeah.
charge there in New York? I remind me. Uh, but this guy is a wacko. Like, he went to Harvard, and the whole story is just crazy. Luigi Mangioloni, like, that sounds like a made up name, right? It's like, and there's people walking around with, uh treating him like he's a hero because he assassinated a guy who runs a company that they didn't like.
Yeah. It's
uh
is bizarre. At first we're
Bizarre.
thinking, hey, this is a professional hit. There's writings on the casings. He said this assassin disappears. Wow, this was a hit, and then you find him in a McDonald's with the silencer and a.
It's like, what in the world? This
Oh,
I don't know what is going on. Whatever story we've been told about what's been going on is not the story. Guaranteed.
yeah, it doesn't add up. You know,
None of it adds up. Absolutely none of it adds up. It's completely bizarre. And whenever things are bizarre, it's like my spidey sense starts to tingle, like
yeah,
something's going on here, right? Like, we're
yeah,
not getting the story here. There's more to this.
yeah,
And is
right,
this guy a fall guy? Is he a patsy? Did he? I don't know,
yeah,
right? And nobody knows. But it's as fishy as heck. I'm waiting for somebody to walk up to him and shoot him in the stomach, a la Kennedy
yeah,
thing here.
yeah.
It's like, this is what you feel like is the next thing that's going to happen. It's
Very,
crazy.
very strange. Yeah, the Gen X skepticism comes out.
Oh,
Take a step
big
back.
time.
Wait a minute, this guy knew enough to how to have fake IDs, and he had
Silencer,
that time,
suppressor. It's
and
like, come on.
he took him out and then disappeared, and then he's hanging around in a McDonald's with all the incriminating. I mean, that.
It's almost like he wanted to get caught. This is the thing. Whenever I see stuff like that, it's like, did he want to get caught?
Yeah,
Like,
what?
what's the plan here?
Yeah, and then they say he's anti-capitalism, but he went to a high school that was $40,000 a year. Went to
Went to
Penn
Harvard or wherever. Yeah.
and
It's
Ivy
like
League. Yeah,
Ivy League school. It's like, obviously, the question comes to is, what are they teaching people at Ivy League schools? Apparently at Columbia, they teach you to hate Israel. You know,
yeah,
what is being taught at Ivy League level schools? I,
yeah,
it seemed to be cranking out people who aren't socially adapted. I don't know how else to explain it, right?
yeah.
We'll
Are
take heat for that, but that's all right. We don't care. We're Gen X, right? It's like, this is the thing. We don't care. And speaking of Gen X again, uh, you brought up a great point on the side about, we talked about in our first podcast about our experience as kids, and we'll talk about it more, of course, on the show. But you had a question for the audience on that, didn't you?
Yeah, I was wondering because we laid out the case that being an 11-year-old boy when we were at that age, with total freedom to ride our bikes and climb trees and play and be out all day with our friends was the best experience you could possibly
Yeah.
have. But what you didn't think about is, well, what about girls? You know, because at the same time, I didn't see them in the arcade. I didn't see them climbing trees. I had an opportunity to ask a couple, and they said they got together with their friends and they did ride bikes and enjoy that freedom. But that was the question I had was,
Mm.
you know, if you're a girl growing up during the Gen X time, how did you feel like you had an amazing childhood? Or, you know, is that just kind of, you know,
Yeah, and if you have kids, is it do you also agree like with us it's substantially different than the experience that your kids have had,
right.
right? And because I think like you're right, there was girls who would be out riding bikes and stuff and whatnot, but I think it might be a little bit different
Yeah.
for us as boys at that particular time. We like to get dirty. We like to catch tadpoles and frogs and snakes and put them in a bucket. And you know that might not be a universal experience. And we're coming at it from a Midwest perspective as well, where we didn't grow up in Manhattan or downtown LA or something.
Yeah.
um, but I think it's that sort of rural slash suburban experience that we so enjoyed
Yeah.
as kids. And so, I mean, our ask for you in the audience, for the females out there, for Gen X females, leave us a comment. Any number of places. You can do it on Spotify. You can do it on Instagram or on YouTube or on X/Twitter. Leave us a question or a comment about what your experience has been. We'd love to take anybody's comments, and if there's topics that you'd like us to discuss, just drop us a note. Any one of those locations, we read them all, and would be happy to respond or to discuss the topic. And we're also not opposed to having a guest at some point.
Right.
Right. So we may do that
Yeah.
as well. Well, it's our rewind section. And for the rewind section, we ask each other some questions. And Brady doesn't know the questions I'm going to ask him. And I don't know the questions that he's going to ask me. So I will fire away here to start. All right, Brady, what was your favorite childhood movie and why?
Oh boy. You know, and it's funny, we keep writing down the same questions to ask each other. And I'll get back to you on this one because that's a great question. For me, the first Indiana Jones movie was one that really did a great job of just tapping into that sense of adventure and free spirit. You know, our generation, it was very important to be independent and unique, being yourself, and tapping into that with such an amazing adventure. Uh, that the Indiana Jones was that, you know, and that it holds up. I think I just heard that they're coming out with a new video game for Xbox, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle or something like
Cool.
that. So it just shows you 40 years later, um, you know, that there's still people interested in watching it and excited about it. So for me, I'd say that's probably my number one movie.
Man, that's right up there for me too. I saw it in the theater. I forget how old I was. I might have been in high school. I might be dating myself now, but um, when I saw it at the time in the theater, I think it came out in what, 81, maybe something like that, maybe before that. I can't remember exactly. It was around the same time as Empire Strikes Back. That's what they were around the same. And Superman, I think, was
Mm.
maybe it was in the 70s actually. it was my favorite experience in a theater
Yeah.
up until that point in time, and probably still is one of my favorite in theater experiences.
Yeah.
Um, Kind of the surround sound and all of that. The Dolby was
Right.
fairly new at the time, right? And the arrows going back and forth, in the theater. Oh my gosh, it was a tremendous effect, right? It was just awesome. And it's one of those movies that when it was over, the audience applauded, That doesn't happen very often, but the audience was like applauding. That was just so entertaining.
Oh,
Everything about it was entertaining, right?
well, and let's touch on that for a second too. The difference between when we were kids in a movie theater back then versus now, it's a different experience. There was an innocence with the audience back then where you
Yeah.
felt you were kind of together, experiencing something. People would gasp, and it just seemed
Yeah.
you were together experiencing that. Whereas now, it's much more comfortable. You can lay down and you,
Yeah. Get served food and there's like 8 people in the theater, right? It's
yeah,
like,
you can almost lay down in
yeah.
reclining
And
chair.
for people our age, we tend to drift off
Yeah,
to sleep in comfortable chairs like that. Back in the day, they weren't so
yeah. But
comfortable.
everybody clapping,
Yeah.
after back then it was like this, and I don't know what we were thinking by everyone applauding, like the director's going to come out from behind
Right,
them.
right, right. This is a screening and you have just won a prize, right? Like, no, but
This,
it's a great movie. It's
oh yeah,
still a great movie. It absolutely 100% holds up today, and for today's audiences it's still incredibly entertaining. Even though I've seen it probably 40 or 50 times in my life, I still enjoy the experience.
yeah.
All sorts of cultural references
Mhm.
to it, and to the Indiana Jones character, and just all of that. But I think you touched on it. It really tapped into the zeitgeist, right? There was this, and then they made countless TV series. MacGyver was sort of loosely based on an Indiana Jones type character,
Yeah,
but he became kind of a national hero. This guy who's kind of an unwilling participant sometimes in the adventures, but finds his way out of it and is wisecracking, not overly cool, but strongly independent. All of that. It was the right movie at the right time. Everybody wanted to escape the reality of Jimmy Carter's administration, right? And it was like Indiana Jones was perfect for that.
yeah. And
So
Tom Selleck has to be kicking himself after passing on that role. I think he was the original,
yeah, isn't that something?
and yeah, Harrison Ford was right there to scoop it up. I think,
I remember when my son saw it for the first time when he was like 4 or 5 years old, and he said, I didn't know that Han Solo was in this movie." That,
hmm,
because he hadn't seen Harrison Ford in anything other than Star Wars at that point in time.
yeah,
So, and then I said, after the movie, do you still think that that was Han Solo? Trying to get into his psyche. Was Harrison Ford able to sell you that he could be a different character? And my son was like, absolutely. Like after 10 minutes, I forgot that that was Han Solo,
yeah,
which was true, because you're like, wait, how can Harrison Ford be anything other than Han Solo after Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back? It seemed like there's no way that he could overcome that. And he did in spades, right? It
right,
was tremendous. All right,
yeah.
question number two, maybe along the same lines. Who was your childhood hero?
Oh man, boy. Well, I was heavy into sports, so wait, that was
Gary Danielson?
Chuck Long.
Yeah, Chuck. Andre Ware.
Yeah,
All
right,
those all those Ring of Honor Detroit Lions quarterbacks.
right. Yeah, yeah, their NFL card is worth 5 to 6.
Yeah. The
No,
stick of gum in the bubble gum pack that it came in is worth more than their rookie cards.
right, right. Well, no, Isaiah Thomas. We had the bad boys.
Dennis Rodman.
Dennis Rodman, yeah, Bill Lambier, uh, even Rick Mahorn. We had the bad boys. That was big. But yeah, from a movie standpoint, um, I remember asking my dad to get a bullwhip for me, and he said,
I
"If I
wonder
ever,
how many people, yeah, I wonder how many kids put their eyes out with those, right? It's like
yeah,
kids
it
coming
looked,
to school with big scars down the side of their face. What'd you do? I got an Indiana Jones bullwhip for Christmas.
yeah, dogs walking around with singed."
Yeah.
No, that I wonder too how many Gen Xers went into archaeology thinking it was going to be this great, amazing
Yeah,
career.
they were gonna have all these experiences. Instead, they
Yeah,
lay in the dirt and brush off bones for 8 hours a day.
right, right. Yeah, getting grants, government grants, and digging in dirt for, yeah, no, but yeah, I'd say that would probably be uh, at the top. Star Wars was right there too. So, gosh, the commercial all the lunch pails, Star Wars lunch pails, and
Yeah.
toys, and everything was. With me, that was right in the middle of my childhood. Um, but yeah, that's pretty
Okay.
close.
And the
Yeah.
third question is, what was your favorite beverage?
Oh man,
Colt 45?
Jolt, Jolt's cola.
Yeah, Jolt.
Yeah,
Mixed with Mountain Dew.
we didn't have, we weren't allowed to have soft
Sugared soda.
sodas. Yeah, my mom didn't. And thankfully, we weren't guzzling that stuff down. I do remember Ovaltine, as sad as that is. We had the
Drink
chocolate,
your Ovaltine. Yeah.
yeah. But
Wait,
it
was it soda or pop where
it
you were?
called it pop.
Yeah,
Yeah,
in Minnesota and Iowa and Wisconsin, it was pop. And
yeah,
I saw a map. Somebody put together a map of soda and pop, and in some places in the South, they just call it Coke, right? So it doesn't matter what kind of Cokes you want. Well, I'll have a 7 Up and he'll have a root beer.
yeah,
It's just Coke, right? The soda map has been growing into the pop areas. So the people who say pop has been shrinking over the last 30 years, which
yeah,
I find is interesting, right? And maybe it's because people are dispersing and Midwesterners tend to move to the South and then they learn that the proper term is soda. So one funny thing too. So my wife works at a resort hotel, and there was a guest, I think, from Minnesota, maybe it was Michigan, who was looking for the Pat machine. And my wife is originally from Germany and then has lived in Arizona for 22 years. So she'd never heard anybody refer to it probably as pop. And then when you tack that on with the northern accent, pap, right? It's pap. Where's the pap machine? And literally, she had no idea what that lady was saying. Like, not a clue. Like, could not, like, the wheels were turning. Like, what could she possibly be asking for? What kind of a machine? So she asked the lady to repeat it 3 times and then finally, like, pieced together that, oh, you mean the soda machine?
oh
Yeah,
yeah,
it's right. It's right over there.
yeah, yeah. Hey, do you remember
Uh,
uh, the pop shop where the bottles were
yes,
stacked and you put the money in and you just pull the bottle out?
yes. And the other one was Pick a Pop, which was they were just on. It was, I don't know if it was name brands. I feel like it was just flavors, like, cherry, cream soda, root beer, cola, stuff. But there was just racks and racks of bottles of pop, and then you had a rack. You'd put it on a cart, and then you would take the bottles and put it into the big rack of 24 or 32, whatever, right?
Mm.
And then you'd pay for the whole rack.
Yeah.
And then you would bring the empty bottles back in the rack to the same place. And you could either then exchange it for the new bottles or get the refund for, 5 cents per bottle, whatever it was back
Yeah.
in the day. So we got to try like, strawberry and all the different flavors and stuff. I will say though, yeah, my family wasn't too keen on sugar drinks either, so we rarely had them around the house.
Yeah.
Um, but I think when we did that, I really enjoyed like root beer.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think as a kid, it's kind of fun because it's different, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
All right, Brady, what questions do you have for me?
Well, very similar to start off with, because I think that's really interesting. I was going to ask you, it's a lot, but it, 5 movies that you feel kind of represent the Gen X
Hmm.
generation. You were going to drop them into a category.
That's a really good question. I'm pretty sure Indiana Jones and Star Wars, any one of them is was critical to that phase, right? End of 70s, early 80s. So I'd say those two um, are huge. The Breakfast Club.
Yeah.
I think The Breakfast Club is probably the quintessential Gen X movie.
Yeah.
Every Gen X person that I've ever known or talked to, when that topic comes up, everybody loves that movie. And I
Yeah.
would challenge, I mean, there's some language in it and stuff, but the younger generation should watch that movie. You would relate to it. Things have changed and terminology and everything, but the basics of human experience carry over generations, right? The clothing and the speech was relevant to that, but the characters themselves are represented across every generation.
Yeah.
And taking kids seriously, that was a huge thing. That was a change in the 80s. um, so I'd say that one is there. um, Jaws um, was something that I think was such a cultural icon
Right.
for Gen X kids too. Like most of us, some of us saw it in the theater, others, watched it at a friend's on HBO or something when it first came out. Um, it was just such a huge thing. I just remember it was like Jaws, and it was in the newspaper constantly, and all the talk about it.
Yeah.
Um, Trying to think of another one. Um, Vacation and Christmas Vacation.
Yeah.
Um, just because of same thing, like the original Vacation, that was my experience, right? Family in a car, cross country, stopping to see stupid sights like the second largest ball of twine and the fourth largest freestanding mud dwelling, right? It's like that was my childhood for sure. Long car rides, all of that. So for me, that's kind of a defining thing. And again, that the humor in that is still very, it still hits my funny bone every time. Just
Yeah.
that experience. So I think those are some of the main ones. I know I'm missing. There's so many other ones. And one thing that I do appreciate too, if you watch early 70s movies, is how gritty they are.
Mm.
And I miss that. Everything, especially I hate modern movies. I don't like any of the superhero movies, Marvel and all that. I just don't like, sorry, I don't like it. It's all CGI for the most part, right? It's just people acting on a stage with projected stuff around them. And I don't really find that interesting. Movies in the early 70s, like, well, The Exorcist, but there's a French Connection and Bullet. Um, any Steve McQueen movie, right, from that time period, New York and cities and everything, it's gritty,
Yeah.
right? The characters are gritty. The Dirty Harry movies, the characters are gritty. The city is gritty. The way they talk is gritty. And I like that because it's different from, you know, the watered down and everybody's nice and we got to talk nicely about everybody. I think you and I were joking. I was watching the Dirty Harry movie, and Clint Eastwood in his one of the movies he gets a female partner, and they're like, "Hey, Harry, here's your new partner," and he's like, what could she possibly know about being a police person? It's like you couldn't get away with that today, right? But watching it now, it's hilarious, right? Because he's just making the face. I
Yeah,
can't believe I got to work with this broad. He's using that kind of language constantly,
yeah,
and he grows to appreciate her. So there is that, but reluctantly
yeah,
so, right? Um, it's just I like that style of movie because it harkens back to the time period when people didn't watch what they said, and I really like
yeah,
it.
yeah. There's so many, even E.T. is one that comes to
Yeah,
mind so big, and Goonies is for me was big because you're a kid, you're riding your bike, that whole
yeah.
thing you identify with, getting together with your friends, hanging out, and
It was
going.
really, and I saw that documentary on the Brat Pack. It was fascinating, actually. I think every Gen Xer should watch it. It'll just bring back a
Yeah,
lot of memories, core memories from the time period, watching all of those Brat Pack movies.
yeah,
It will also make you realize that we're getting old because
yeah,
all of those people look old now.
yeah,
And not bad. I'm not saying they look bad. They just look old. And they're all about 60, right? They're in their late 50s and 60. So uh and some of them you haven't seen in a long time, right? You haven't really seen them. They haven't been at the forefront of stuff.
right,
Um, but it was a fascinating documentary. But they pointed out that in that era, it was a change from Hollywood. Prior, it was always big mega superstars, Charlton Heston, and all of these old stars ran Hollywood. And then in the 80s, Breakfast Club and Pretty in Pink and all of these were teen movies with teen actors, and the movies took their lives seriously. They had serious problems, they had serious angst, they had fun, Fast Times at Ridgemont High, whatever. But it was movies about teens and they were taken seriously.
yeah,
They weren't just props to movies or whatever. And it began a new phase of movies that focused on young people instead of old people movies, right?
right.
There was a real change.
Yeah, and then there's Bill Murray and all of his, there's just so much to Caddyshack and all those. It's
And those
unlimited.
comedies are so funny because they didn't pull punches,
Yeah,
and nothing was off limits. You could say anything, you could do anything.
right.
Um, Eddie Murphy's movies, especially. Um, Man, I'll tell you too, Beverly Hills Cop is a perfect movie. I've said this before. It's just a perfect movie. The plot is interesting and a little bit dangerous and everything. Eddie Murphy is at the absolute top of his game. He's incredibly funny.
Yeah,
He says all sorts of crazy and outrageous things that just have you laughing. You feel good watching the movie. It's That's just a perfect movie from the 80s. And
yeah,
most of those 80s Eddie Murphy movies they're not only funny, they're in some ways they're a snapshot of the world at that particular time.
hmm,
And man, Eddie Murphy was the king back
yeah.
then. All right, question two.
Two, did you partake of the roller skating when that was a big deal with the music and around the
Oh
circle?
yeah. Yeah. And I'm thinking specifically, man, I had some core memories associated with it too. Sixth grade, I'm living in Minnesota, and the school had a roller rink day. or whatever, where we went, got in the school bus and they took us to the roller rink and they played music and we skated around for 2 hours or whatever.
Oh,
And you got to maybe hold a girl's hand, and stuff. It was,
yeah, big.
I loved it. I loved it. Lots of McCartney and Wings songs. That's what I remember. It's like, with a little luck and silly love songs and all of that. That was great. And that carried through even when I was in college. We would go leave the dorm and go to the roller rink, and there would be a college night, and still really enjoyed it.
Yeah,
Right. I don't know where that's gone. I don't even know where there's a roller rink
yeah,
anymore. I imagine they exist somewhere, but I haven't been to one in 25 years. Probably. I don't know that I've ever been to one in Arizona.
yeah.
But
Yeah, I think.
it was fun,
Oh, it
right?
was. Yeah, it was. That was like cruising. That
Yeah,
was.
it was.
Yeah,
Before you could hang out with your friends, you could see girls, you could play video games, you could eat greasy pizza. I mean, and your parents weren't there, right?
right.
That was the best part of it, right? It was like you were doing something, the parents would drop you off and you come and pick you up 2 hours later or whatever it was. So it's like it didn't matter. You were away from your parents and that felt good,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. That was fun. I'm sure you had your wrist guards, your helmet. Your
Ah, yes. No,
parents.
and it wasn't inline skates. They were the old style, right? The old style skates that had the rubber thing at the front for this
Yeah,
stopper, whatever they called it, the brake.
that
Um,
every once in a while.
and you'd fall down probably at least once or twice.
Yeah,
And, but it's, I learned how to skate
yeah,
that way. I mean, I started out ice skating and then it's like, what's roller skating? I don't know what that is. And it's like, it's just like ice skating. And then you get out there and you're like, yeah, not quite, uh, but yeah, lots of, I mean, you see my eyes going off someplace because I'm absolutely reflecting on my experiences at a roller rink and it was fun. And,
yeah. That
I
really was.
always wanted to go more often when I was a kid and just didn't have that many. I think
Yeah,
our church even had skate nights, junior high and high school skate night or a family skate night or something.
yeah,
Um, that was a big deal. So
yeah,
somebody out there, maybe you and I, let's open one. Uh, 80s roller park.
yeah.
We play 80s music and you rent skates and man, we could make a fortune, right?
You're right. Yeah, good exercise, good way to meet people, visit. Yeah,
I like it. Charge $8 for a soda and
right. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, Starbucks prices.
yeah.
Uh, well, third question, pretty much combine two things. So one is, did you get into swatches where you had multiple colored watches to be cool? Uh,
No, I never had a Swatch. Um, my first watch was John Candy will appreciate this, a Casio.
yeah,
Like from Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, right? It's like I had a Casio. I think everybody I feel like had a Casio, and it was, digital watches had come out,
yeah.
and it was gold with the fake gold band, and thought it was the coolest thing. But I actually my first digital watch, and you can actually buy these watch faces for like uh modern digital smartwatches. It was you had to touch it to light up the dial, and then it was the red, you know, I don't even know what they called it, the red LEDs,
Mm,
you know, but there wasn't enough power to keep them on all the time. So when you wanted to check the time, you had to press the button and then there was nothing else. It was just a black screen and then the red LEDs would light up. And
mm.
like you can find that watch face for smartwatches. It's kind of fun. It kind of brings me back to the day when that was what it was. That was, I think, in the 70s, and then the LCDs kind of took over in the 80s with the Casios and everything else, but I never got a Swatch. And then I went a long period of time where I just didn't wear watches, I think.
Mhm. Yeah.
The funny thing is, it's like, but now I have like 8 different bands for my smartwatch. I have a Samsung watch and I have like 8 different colored bands on
Right.
it. So I'm maybe 35 years behind on the trend, but
Yeah.
I'm doing it.
Getting back to it. And then your first jean jacket, any stories there?
Oh my gosh. And if you, this is just for anyone who's never owned a jean jacket. A well-worn jean jacket is about the most comfortable thing you can ever put on.
Yeah.
I don't know why, right? You're like denim, that's nothing. It's like, it's so cool. And I bought one, I think freshman year in college,
Mm.
and, had the collar up
Oh yeah.
on the jean jacket. I was James Dean for crying out loud with that thing on, right? And 501 Levi jeans to match. It was like, I think my sophomore roster picture from college, I have a jean jacket on, I think. And I love that thing so much. And it's like, whatever happened to it, I don't know. I would have kept it. I don't know why I maybe got rid of it at some point. I mean, they went out of style and then they come back, and
Yeah.
it's the kind of thing, they come and go.
Yeah.
Um, but it was awesome, and everyone had one.
Yeah.
Like literally everyone had a jean jacket. I
Yeah.
never got the stone washed with the shoulder pads or any of that nonsense from the late 80s. It was the classic, Levi's with the tag on the pocket and stuff. And
Yeah.
love jean jackets. I'm happy to see that they're kind of making another comeback for about the third, fourth time now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, all right. Our next segment is one of our favorites. It's the Get Off My Lawn. Um, our dads used to love yelling at kids who would run across their well manicured lawns, which we did back in the day, playing ding dong ditch or whatever it was. You'd throw your football into the other, and there was always old man Peabody or somebody who would be yelling at you to get off your lawn. It's about our pet peeves, and my pet peeve this episode is warning stickers.
Warning sticker.
And when I was a kid, I don't remember, there maybe have been warning stickers, but I don't remember any of them.
Hmm.
There was no warning labels on cigarette packs, not that I smoke, but they didn't have warning labels on cigarette packs, or they were just starting to introduce the "this may kill you" kind of thing.
Hmm.
There wasn't warnings on matches or matchsticks, you know. There wasn't warnings on lawnmowers, or, like plastered all over. Everything has like 1,000 warning labels on it, right? You
Right.
go out and buy an extension cord. There's like 8 pieces of stuff taped to it with warning.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I get it. It plugs into an outlet. It carries electricity. Maybe I don't want to, poke it with a fork or something. It's like, but it's like absolutely everything. Your car has warning level, on the visor, as if you don't know that you're in a car that could kill somebody, right? It,
Yeah.
everywhere, everything. And I just remember there's a meme floating around. It says, when I was a kid, the owner's manual to the car uh, gave you instructions on how to adjust the timing belt. Now it tells you not to drink the water in the battery. It's like, this is how far we've come.
Yeah.
Uh, I like the world of uh, Darwin sometimes takes care of things, right? The guy using his lawnmower to trim his hedge who cut off his foot, and now there's warning labels on your lawnmower saying don't use as a hedge trimmer. There's
Yeah.
like that. We assume no one has common sense,
Right.
right? Like literally drug bottles. Hey, don't operate heavy machinery if you take 10 Benadryl. It's like, who in the world doesn't know that?
Well, yeah. It's like the lawsuits. I think 90% of
Yeah,
this
that's what it is.
you got to know not to drink scalding hot coffee.
Yeah, coffee's the big one. The
Yeah,
McDonald's coffee thing, right? Seinfeld did a whole episode on how stupid that was. It's like they need a warning label on this. What
yeah,
part of hot coffee did you not understand?
right, right. It's so foreign to us, and now here we are with they have to warn everybody so that they're not legally responsible. The drugs, the commercials. My goodness,
Oh, there's like
it
two
Tyler,
minutes uh
yeah,
of warnings, and you may die if you take this. My favorite one is the one, it's to help make your eyelashes thicker and longer. The side effects are blindness.
yeah, right,
Um, so maybe just use mascara then,
yeah.
instead of going blind, to have thicker.
It's
And
ridiculous.
I'm sorry, this is a side note. I remember we warned the audience that we might weave from time to time. Uh, no, this is to all our women viewers out there. I'm sure there's thousands, right? There's got to be. No man ever looks at your eyelashes or your eyebrows ever. We do not care. Just leave them alone. We don't care. And also shoes. We almost never look at shoes either. These are the things that you spend millions of dollars on and countless hours looking in the mirror to see whether they're great or not. And we don't care. Sorry. Put on a pair of uh, Chuck Taylors, right? And leave your face alone. All
Yeah.
right. Side note, no worries. All right, Brady, what's your pet peeve this week?
My pet peeve, this is probably going to also rub a lot of people the wrong way.
Then it's perfect.
Right. One of those, 50% saying, I don't know if you should say this or go down that road, but
Then that's a definite yes. You should go down that road.
yeah,
That should be our motto.
here we go. No, I love dogs. I grew up with dogs. I had a dog, just recently passed away. Definitely a dog person and always will be. But what's happened when I see, you've got service dogs, and if somebody's blind or somebody has
I
senior,
see where you're going.
by all means, take them with you wherever you go. I have no problem with that at all. Most of the time, I don't mind companion animals going here and there. But there are certain places that these companion animals are just going into, and I don't feel like that should be something that should be allowed. And to give you an example, take my wife to a very fancy birthday dinner with
Oh,
some,
yes, I seem to recall that particular
yeah,
episode.
yeah, very good friends. So we're dressed up. You were going to spend probably over 100 a piece on dinner. Uh, very nice place. We're all dressed up. We sit down, and the table next to us, they're dressed like they're working out or golf.
Yeah.
No, nobody's, and there's a huge 100-pound dog laying on the ground, at our feet. And I'm thinking, this isn't right. This is not, those,
Yeah, I don't that struck me as funny too, because it's like that wasn't a assistance dog. It was just a
no,
dog.
it's
And
just a
the
dog.
dog shook itself, which, if you've owned dogs and you've ever seen a dog shake with sunlight streaming in, just a cloud of dander and hair, like all over my food.
Right.
Thank you very much for that. What was your need to bring a dog into a fancy restaurant? I
Exactly.
agree. I agree. It's we have to cater to everybody. And I've heard stories of like the support donkey that somebody took around, or the support pony, or my wife tells a story of someone at her hotel brought support chickens and
Yeah.
had them in their hotel room. And it's where does it end? To me, it's more of kind of a mental disorder than it is anything else. And that we feel in today's society, we just have to allow people to do whatever they want.
Well,
And
that's
you
it.
can't ever hold anybody to some kind of a standard and say,
Exactly.
no, no dogs, right? This is
Does
a
a grocery
restaurant.
never want a 100-pound dog walking up and down the aisles. What if it goes to the bathroom? What if it throws up? How about a fancy restaurant? So
Agreed.
I think, yeah, if it's a seeing eye dog, if it's a
Yeah, of
seizure,
course. And plus, like you said, we love dogs. I have three. I love dogs.
yeah,
I love when a restaurant has an outdoor patio and people
yeah,
have dogs out there. That's the proper place, not in a formal dining room, not as your support dog on an airplane or something like that. It's like if you need if you need an assistance dog, they're amazing and you should be able to do anything that you need to do with them.
yeah,
Emotional support, it's like, come on, man. I think that's stretching it and going into nice restaurants, and we've entitled people to where you can't question anything that they do.
right,
Well, I need this, or I'm this, or I identify as a clown. And so we just all have to, pretend along with them. It's like, enough already. This is nonsense. This is definitely something that I believe most Gen Xers agree with, that it's just a lot of nonsense,
yeah.
right? And there's no common sense being used. And it's like, come on, it's like, grow up, right?
Well,
Like, I don't know what
you
else to say about it.
too, can you imagine walking your big dog into a fancy restaurant and just, I mean, to me, I would feel, I would feel strange, like
Yeah.
I'm doing something that other people,
Right. What about, yeah, how about like the world doesn't revolve around you and your needs and problems?
yeah,
And how about not be a narcissist
yeah,
and try to think about the people around you? Sometimes it used to
yeah,
be smoking. Thankfully we've just about gotten rid of that in public spaces. There's a whole bunch of other things like that, but it's like, think about the people around you and have some common courtesy for what they
yeah,
might want to have an experience at a nice restaurant where there's not a 100-pound dog sitting next to them,
right. Yeah,
right? This is our sensibility, right? Which is kind of that no nonsense stuff. I just don't want a lot of nonsense.
yeah. And this whole idea of, just doing your thing and you end up stepping on other people's toes. But, of course, if we say anything, if you go to the waiter and you say, I don't want to have a
Oh,
dog,
you're the bad guy then.
you're the bad guy, It's like,
So the memo to us is like, don't help people who are being hurt by somebody on a subway, and don't confront somebody who brings their dog into a nice restaurant. This is the lessons learned
right?
this week, right? It's like, wow.
Yeah.
Hey, I wanted to introduce a new segment on the show. Hey, look at that cute kid. It's not mine, by the way.
Okay.
I'll just cover his face up. No, show and tell. Like, it worked when we were kids, right? Like, everybody had show and tell in your school. By the way, and this is for my son and for your daughters too, that thing here, this is called a chalkboard, right? It's not a whiteboard or a smart screen. This is a green board, and you had these white pieces or colored pieces of chalk that you would write on it. And then when you got in trouble, the teacher's punishment was you had to wipe down the chalkboard and take the erasers outside and clap out the dust.
Oh, yeah.
That was like a punishment when I was a kid. But
Yeah.
this is a chalkboard. So show and tell. So um, something from our childhood. And I'm going to show you my item here, Brady, and I want you to tell me what it is first, right? I'm going to see if you know what it is, because I bet there's people in the audience who don't know what it is. So here we go. What is it?
Oh, let's see. Boy, it's kind of hard to see. Is that a ruler or something?
It looks like it might be a ruler. And actually, let me 1 second here. Oh, you're in the real world now.
All
This
right.
is the real stage. So what is this?
Is that a piece of a racetrack?
Yeah, exactly. This
Okay.
is a racetrack for Hot Wheels.
Okay.
or Matchbox cars, right?
That-
And they
yeah.
stick them together and make a track. And I don't know if these are popular anymore, but they were profoundly popular when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Everybody had stacks of them.
Yeah.
You stick them together, and you buy attachments where you do it does a loop and all sorts of other stuff, right?
Yeah.
Um, it also functioned as something else at my household. Would you care to guess what that might have been?
You probably got a whooping here and there with that, right?
This is a hardened piece of plastic. And like just doing it like that, I felt that, right? Like that wasn't even hard. And I felt that across the knuckles. This thing has a nice whip action to it, whatever. So if I was misbehaving while playing with my Matchbox and Hot Wheels cars, my mom would not hesitate to pick up one of these tracks and give me a little love tap across
Yeah.
the back of the knuckles with it. And
Get
let
your
me
attention.
tell you, it gets your attention. It definitely gets your attention. And my mom will probably be mad at me. She's like, you know, I'm not accusing her of anything. I if they had been around, I probably would have used them myself
Yeah.
because they're
Right.
pretty effective. Don't leave any lasting marks or
Yeah.
anything. Um, it's so funny. It's like it was such a fun toy. I countless hours playing with tracks, right?
Yeah.
And I even had the Evil Knievel motorbike thing, and there you could have him go on tracks and all sorts. I had tons of tracks, right?
Yeah.
It just was the downside of them. It was a nice punishment tool for parents, and
Yeah. Well, I
kind of
remember
kind
the
of
loop,
funny.
just trying to get the car to do the loop.
Yeah, without falling out of the loop,
Yeah,
right? Like,
that was big.
and my son did play with these, and he would have friends over, and they would race Matchbox cars and stuff.
Yeah.
So it hasn't gone away completely, but that's a core memory for me on two
Yeah.
levels. It's fun, and also that it was used to punish me for misbehaving.
Yeah.
Um, I I learned how to get along with friends probably because I got this a few times across the knuckles, um, and whatnot. So, I know everybody has a story. I'll bet every Gen Xer has a story about something that they were punished with, right? Be it a belt or a paddle
Oh
or
man.
a track or whatever. Almost every Gen X kid
Yeah.
received some type of corporal punishment when they
Right.
were kids, and it toughened most of us up. And I've heard people talk about it too, even kids who were, you know, where it was over the top and they were in some level physically abused. I use that term vaguely, I think, but they even said that, like, yeah, even though it probably wasn't right and everything, I did learn something from it,
Yeah.
right? And I'm not espousing beating your kids, believe me,
No.
but a lot of lessons were learned by Gen X kids,
Yeah.
right?
I was
And
going to tell you that I was listening to a podcast where they were talking about the different generations. And, one thing, I definitely want to get your input on this too. I thought it was really interesting how, he was talking about um, the different generations in history, their experiences forming their kind of their core behavior.
right,
I mean, obviously, the World War II generation having to endure World War II,
yeah,
the Great Depression, and the market, just having such resiliency and toughness, and our generation where the Cold War, nuclear war could happen at
yeah,
any, and how that kind of created our the independence and everything that came from that. And then not to pick on millennials because, not criticizing any of them, but they they had really good, it was peace. It was a peaceful time.
yeah.
was, financially, it was a good time for society. Financially, things were well. So the waters were really, really calm. And I think that's where that kind of helped generate that millennial generation. So it's kind of interesting just to see how historically where you fall puts you in a generation where culture kind of forges that type of people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you you grow from conflict and trials, right? They produce perseverance, they produce a stronger fortitude. And like you said, the greatest generation had so much to go through, and that's what made them as strong as they
Yeah.
were, right? And like you said, our generation had the Cold War and had the energy crisis and, all of that stuff, the fear of nuclear war and everything. So when we came out of it in like, the mid to late 80s, it was just such a wonderful time because it was like you could finally kind of breathe,
Right.
right? It's like I just remember every morning waking up, waiting to get on the bus to go to junior high and watching the morning news. And it was always about Russia moving ballistic missiles into Europe and how many nuclear weapons do we have and what the possible casualty counts. And now when I think back, we treated that like it was the news. It wasn't, it was all propaganda,
Yeah.
right? That's the thing. Like we've learned now that pretty much anything that we've received from the government over the years via the media is just pure propaganda.
Yeah.
And I now question all of that, right? The narrative, I question the narrative about the Kennedy assassination. I question the narrative about Nixon uh, and all of that. I question the narrative about the energy crisis. It's clear it didn't happen. It was manufactured, right? We were told in 1978 we were out of oil.
Yeah.
We're gonna run out of oil. There's shortages at the gas pump. You got to wait in line because we're almost out of oil. That's nearly 50 years ago, and we're not even close to being out of oil,
Right.
right? It was
Yeah.
complete propaganda, right? And
Yeah.
I don't think Russia ever intended to invade or start a nuclear war. I think that was just propaganda.
Mm.
I don't think they were any more excited or active or planning to do that than we were. But we were told that they were because then that creates, impetus to build more weapons and to, launder money, whatever. I don't know, but I question all of those news narratives that we experienced when we.
Yeah.
Did
No,
you have something to show and tell, Brady?
oh, yeah, I did. I actually grabbed this old.
Ah, Simon.
I don't know if can you see that
Yeah,
there?
there you go. It's a
Yeah,
Simon, right?
that is. It is. And just to show you how incredibly boring some of the toys are,
Yeah.
simple, because kids nowadays should rejoice with the technology they have.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole idea here is just it's a memory game.
Match the pattern.
Yeah, match the pattern, but I mean, you'd play that for hours, and
Hours.
yeah, yeah, that was it. I mean,
And you'd get to like, maybe you could get to like 14 or 15 in a row,
yeah,
something like that. And then you'd screw up.
yeah,
And then you're like, oh my gosh, but yeah, it's like, it's such a simple thing, just four tones, four colors. But
yeah,
that was like the pinnacle of technology at the time,
yeah,
right? It's like
yeah,
that
yeah,
and a Merlin. That was another thing. It was like a Merlin and it was looked like a handheld phone or something, but it was just like a calculator.
right,
But we thought all that stuff was just the absolute peak of technology,
yeah,
right? Like we talked about video games last time, and it's just like to us, this was an amazing transformation from sort of inanimate objects to things that had batteries in them,
yeah,
right? And
yeah,
that was a big kind of switch over from when I was a kid. You got footballs and you got puzzles and Legos and stuff like that. And then as you got into the 80s, then all your presents were clock radios and Walkmans and Simons and Mattel electronic football and all that. That's
Yeah.
everything became electronic
Right.
very quickly, and that hasn't stopped, right? Like we're still on that kick.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's a good one. That brings back some definite memories. Had brought that out at parties, right? Youth
Yeah.
parties and stuff. You'd
Yeah.
pull that thing out and whatnot. Um, well, I think we are. How do you like this background? Uh, this is our childhood. I asked AI to create a scene with people out as the street lights were coming on. And I, took some tweaking. It's like, no, no, make it because it's like first it's like inner city,
Yeah.
and it's like, no, 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 make it suburban, and then like make it Midwestern suburban, not California suburban, right? And then I'll make the houses look like they're from the 60s or 70s, right? And you can see the parents are wearing like bell-bottom jeans and the
Yeah.
haircuts are like kind of 70s. But it just, we talked about it last week. It's kind of our closing thing to talk about the freedom that we had, and we didn't
Yeah.
have to come home and you could just walk down the street to right down the middle of the street like that. We did that all the time. You just walked right down the middle of the street.
Oh
And if a
yeah.
car came, you got out of the way. Or you were on your bike. If the car came, you went to the side of the road.
Yeah. We actually played stick hockey in the street.
Yeah, in the street, in the middle of the street.
All the neighborhood kids, we'd play stick hockey. A car would
Or
come.
football or stickball, baseball, whatever.
Yeah. It was
That was
fun.
great.
Good.
All right. I want to remind everybody to subscribe and like. And we're on so many social media platforms. We're running the show here. Like we've got an Instagram. All you have to do is look up GenX Rewind on any of these. We have an Instagram site. We have a Twitter site. This is a great place for you to interact with us on Twitter. That's or X. This is a great opportunity there. We post links to the videos. I put some teaser uh, videos up, some of our favorite clips from shows. I put on Twitter and on Instagram. We're on YouTube, full episodes on YouTube and Spotify. Those are two of my favorite places to watch stuff. You can listen to us on Amazon Music and iHeartRadio. It's just the audio only. So if you're in your car and you just want to listen to an episode, um, you know, start, stop it, whatever, play it for the family. Would love for you to share the episodes or the podcast with friends on any of the platforms that you're on. We would appreciate that. And we'd love to interact with you. So ask us questions, ask us to talk about topics. We'd be happy to do that as well. And as a reminder, as I mentioned last episode, we're also on UHF channel 75 in the greater Pontiac, Michigan area. No, I'm
That's
just
it.
kidding. That's right. So for Brady and myself, thanks for tuning in. Again, we will see you the next time. We want you to have fun, but just be sure to be home before the streetlights come on.
That's right. Take care,
We'll
guys.
see you. See
Bye-bye.
ya.